Rev up your engines because we're about to take a wild ride down the LaneAxis. LaneAxis is revolutionizing the supply chain industry with its innovative platform that utilizes blockchain technology and AI to streamline logistics processes, reduce costs, and increase efficiency.
Next Pitch TV showcases the most innovative equity crowdfunding campaigns for the verdict of the crowd.
I'm thrilled to introduce you to the mastermind behind LaneAxis, none other than the dynamic Rick Burnett. With Rick Burnett at the helm, this visionary startup is paving the way for a future where logistics are smarter, faster, and more sustainable.
And a very good morning indeed, and welcome to Next Pitch TV, where we showcase the most innovative equity crowdfunding campaigns for the verdict of the crowd. So, to get started, could you please tell us what exactly LaneAxis is all about?
Yeah, LaneAxis is a nine-year-old software company that focuses on supply chain and focuses on a platform that builds efficiency, cost reduction on the transportation movements in the U.S.
So if I understand it correctly, it is a little bit like an Airbnb for transportation. Is that an accurate description or maybe too simplified?
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. What we do is we allow the shipment owner that needs to connect directly to a trucking company. A lot of people don't realize that 97% of this industry is smaller independents. So we have carrier statistical data on 2.1 million trucking companies, and they can come to the network, they can contract, they can negotiate, confirm the load. And then we have a mobile app that connects directly to the network where they capture real-time data, tracking, communication, and then there's a direct payment capability directly to the carrier. So it's really a platform. We charge 1% per side. So on a rate confirmation to the shipper that he confirms the carrier, we're going to charge the shipper $20 and deduct $20 from the direct payment of the carrier. So we are agnostic to the freight type, and we're agnostic to any type of person that has a shipment that wants to move it. They can come to the network. Then we have a service we call streaming, which allows you to broadcast your loads directly to the network. Because of this independent market, nobody knows where the 3.5 million independent drivers are on a day-to-day basis and where they're going to be at tomorrow or next week. So having the capability to connect directly to them, to their phone with loads that they can confirm, negotiate a rate. And then once the rate is confirmed, then the underlying technology of the platform takes over and everything's tracked in real time.
What is fascinating is that you describe it first and foremost as a software company, which makes every sense in the similar, should we say, to Uber. It's kind of like, yes, it's a ride sharing, but effectively what it is the technology. The ride sharing in this case is essentially the end result. You seem to be doing something essentially very similar, except with freight and for freight carriers. So it's a really fascinating.
Yeah. Very great description, because that's actually what we are. We are a software company. So in the model of let's say Convoy, who went out of business in October and after raising $1 billion. And our model is different because they were electronic broker. So, they obviously didn't bring any value to the shipper because they would have continued to increase the volume of shipments. And they provided shipments to the carrier, but the carriers weren't profitable. And then they competed with other brokers or 3PLs, or we never take ownership of the freight. We are strictly like an Airbnb. We're a platform. An Airbnb doesn't say, this is what you can charge for your house that you want to rent. They build a platform. You put your house or your condo on there. You negotiate directly with the person, and then they make a transaction for facilitating their platform of renting that house or condo. And that's the same model as what we do. We are a facilitator of a platform that allows the shipment owner to connect directly to the trucking company that's going to move the product, negotiate, and then once it's confirmed, we make a transactional fee.
I love it. Well, it's a very much a sign of the times. And it doesn't surprise me that this comes, again, out of the US. Now, I mean, meaning like Airbnb, like Uber and things like that, or all the birds and what have you. In other words, path-breaking developments as far as I'm concerned, well, from my perspective. Now, I noticed that this is, I believe, your second or third, I'm not quite sure, equity crowdfunding campaign?
Yeah, we did one in 2020 on Start Engine and one in 2021 on Start Engine. We're looking to go on WeFunder now. We have a couple internal things over the next month or two. And then we want to do a launch, soft launch, and then market to, the raise.
Well, what stands out isn't just the number of campaigns, but if I see this correctly, the first campaign, I think, reached barely almost 1,070,000, which at the time, I believe, was the max. And the second one, almost 5 million, if I see that correctly, which again was the new max or close to it. That's pretty damn phenomenal, I have to say. Congratulations.
Yeah, we were very, fortunate. Actually during the pandemic, which we launched right when the pandemic happened, we raised $1 million in 3 months. In the underlying technology, we actually started back in 2014 filing patents around this, direct network, really around the inefficiencies that exist in the supply chain. The patent was issued in March of 2018. By description, it's an interaction optimization platform. And so with that, we've also added additional patents around that. When the pandemic actually happened, that summer I was, in California, and I was walking the beach and I'm seeing all the cargo ships backed up. And at the same time, I'm looking at the shelves and they're empty. And it kind of hit me that, when 9/11 happened, the government landed all them planes in a few hours. And how were they able to do that? Well, they had a single network that they had communication and visibility of where the planes are, and they told them to get on the ground. And so when the pandemic happened, I realized that the need of a federal transportation network for 18-wheelers, where you have a capability now because all trucks are tracked with an ELD and there's a device in the cab, we can have the same type of capability of communicating directly to the 18-wheelers, all 5, 6, 7 million plus, that if there is a natural disaster or an attack or anything else, they would have to have ability to communicate directly with the in-cab terminal of that truck and dispatch and move those trucks. And so we filed that patent in the fall of 2021. And so we've done some other ones around documentation. So we are truly a technology company that's looking to improve and move the supply chain to the digital age.
Well, I mean, it sounds absolutely fantastic to me. And what is, again, interesting in the comparison to Uber, if you like, is that Uber wouldn't, or Lyft for that matter, wouldn't really have been possible, I don't think, without the smartphones. In other words, the ability to essentially tie the drivers into the network effectively. And if I understand you correctly, that's really what you're saying is happening here as well, albeit on a somewhat different level. But the point being that you're really taking the most advantage of the technological development to really create something quite revolutionary, if I may say so.
Yeah, thank you. We believe so as well.
Exciting to see. But getting back to the equity crowdfunding, I mean, what you're doing speaks for itself, to my mind at least. Why didn't you just go to the traditional angel VC round?
Well, when you are disruptive, the challenges that you face is that you're changing business processes, and we're still fighting that in the larger companies because, for an example, your Walmarts use EDI. Well, that's an input that EDI has been around for 40 years. And so you have embedded, outdated systems that you have to slowly move to a modernized digitalization. And those companies, just on the freight side, they typically deal with a small number of trucking companies and they contract the rates out on an annual basis, moving them to the understanding that they now can contract directly through a platform with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, with carriers that actually are moving their freight today. They're just not contracting directly with. They're giving it to a C.H. Robinson or a large trucking company, and then they're subcontracting out to the independents. Well, the independents are hauling Walmart's freight. They're just not able to go direct because Walmart can't manage a process in the old days of 40, 50,000 independents. Well, now they can. And so, being that, when you talk to your traditional VCs, they're not visionary people. They look at what's your revenue last year, what's your revenue 2 years ago, what's your, on an individual basis, the people that, they're driven by like Convoy. So Convoy was able to raise $1 billion and they were able to produce revenue, but they were buying that revenue through, and it didn't last. So, they went through the capital that they raised. In the crowdfunding, these are people that it's actually their money. And they invest in companies that they do the research and they put their hard-earned capital into companies they think that are going to, have significant impact. And what we like it is because, we envision that we continue to scale the network and there could be a potential liquidity into going public because, that's going to allow you to open up your market even more. And now you have, 7, 8, 10,000 traders that have your stock. So while at the front end, it perceptually could be, why didn't you go VC? When you get to the back end side of this, it can be very beneficial from the company standpoint because you have thousands of messengers, you have thousands of believers, and, we keep good communication with our shareholders. We have good relationships with them. And, I think the lion's share of them know exactly the challenges that we face as we're getting to scale this network, because it's similar to what Uber faced at the beginning with government and regulation, changing processes from, cabs to rideshare, and what, let's say, Spotify did in the music side, where you had rights to music and you had, these disruptive companies are challenged at the beginning, but once it starts to catch a hold, then, they disrupt and change an industry. And that's where we're headed.
Right. Yeah, no, I can fully understand that. Now, we already mentioned that from a performance point of view, your campaigns have done extremely well. Would you say that your experience with equity crowdfunding, yes, okay, delivered the money, but above all, in the big picture, lived up to your expectations?
Yeah. I mean, I was very happy with our crowdfundings. I think it forces us to, stay lean, and it forces us to continue to communicate and drive into ultimately honing in on the solution, because that's what's going to last in the end is, scaling the network from the solution. And we have, the solution built, it's fully deployed. And now what we're doing is we just got to get marketing exposures and sales guys to scale the network.
Now, you mentioned about the possibility down the road potentially to do an IPO, if I understand that correctly. As an interim thing, have you contemplated maybe listing on a secondary market like the Start Engine secondary, which you're presumably familiar with?
That's come up, and, that's really, just to be transparent, not my area of expertise. That, we're bringing on, some guys that in that area that's going to help us as we, go to this next step. But yeah, that's come up, and that is one thing I can say for sure. Within the next couple of years, we are going to have some type of liquidity for the shareholders, because we have a large number of them, And, people's situation changes, their needs change. And if they want to be able to, sell their shares, we need to have an option for them.
Right. I mean, do your shareholders currently, or are your shareholders currently in a separate SPV or special purpose vehicle?
No, they're just on the cap table as shareholders.
Interesting, in the sense that I don't know what the number is, but traditionally, from my understanding, if one wanted to go the traditional route, i.e. VC angel and so on, and they say, well, what's your cap table look like? And you say, oh, it's 842, just as an example. They sort of run away because,
Right.
Are you kidding me? That's interesting.
Right.
Well,
because in the cap table, the crowdfunding years are one line item. So you have a cap table, you have the 2020 line item or crowdfunding, and you have the 2021 line item. So yeah, they're not spun out into individual, because the platform actually issues the stock certificate to the individuals through the services that they provide. And then that's a fee that we have to pay, obviously. But
right, but in that case, it appears that you are in effect using a special purpose vehicle to combine the many small shareholders, in effect, into a single entry on the cap table.
yeah, that's the way. But eventually, if we mature to the point where a public vehicle makes sense, we would a line item all the rest of those out at that particular time.
Fantastic. And last, may I ask, what exactly led to the creation or the selection of the name LaneAxis? How did you come up with that?
Well, it's a lane is typically how freight moves. You have a preferred lane, or you have a lane from one point to another, and then the access point is how they connect.
Oh, you see, okay. So in this case, the two literally came together. Very
Yes.
clever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we ourselves are just about to launch a Test the Waters campaign for Next Pitch TV, so that we also take advantage of the same thing, since we're part of the industry. So that's definitely going to be
Very good.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. It's the first time actually that we're doing it. So it's a definitely interesting experience. In any case,
Well, if we can be of any help, please let us know. We have a decent team, and they have a lot of knowledge, and so if we can assist in any way, please let us know.
thank you. I very much appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and get this processed and published as soon as possible, and hopefully it will lead a lot of traffic to your campaign, which of course is the name of the game. So
Right.
thank you very much indeed for coming on to Next Pitch TV, and I wish you all the very best with your campaign. Thank you so
very much.
No,
All
take
right,
care.
have a good day. Thank you.
And to you. Bye.
And that's a wrap. Get ready to revolutionize the supply chain with LaneAxis, spearheaded by the visionary Rick Burnett. Let's band together and drive innovation forward. To know more about the featured campaign, subscribe now to nextpitch.tv.